Welcome. My name is Natasha Sherman and I am your host. And my guest today is Marie Scuderi. She is the director of Inner Light Counseling and Holistic Center in Somerville, New Jersey. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I invited you on specifically to talk about couples coaching, couples therapy. And I know you do a vast array of kind of trainings and whatever, but today I want to focus on couples. As a coach, I hear a lot of issues that come up, even if I'm coaching around business. What comes up is relationship issues. So I guess my first question is, what is it that has somebody call you in the first place? Is it usually like they're way halfway out the door, or they're just in distress?
The majority of the couples that come are not on their way out the door. There is maybe about 20% that this is a last resort, but the majority are still thinking that it's workable. And they're unhappy in the relationship, and they're hoping that the couples counseling will help get them on the right track.
Well, that's great. If you have two invested partners,
Good point.
Is it typically where they both are invested, or kind of one has to convince the other?
I think a lot of times they're both vested, but one is more so. One is usually more invested in doing the couples counseling, wanting it more. Though they both usually want it, that doesn't mean that they're both capable of doing everything that needs to be done in the counseling and in the relationship to make it a success. But the first step towards success is picking up the phone and making an appointment. I mean, that says, I care enough about this relationship. I love my partner enough. I've invested enough in this relationship. I want it to continue.
Yeah. I know when we talked before the show, you talked about one of the biggest issues for couples coming in, and I know there are many, is infidelity. So typically, is it one person who has, had an affair, or do they both come in having had affairs?
It's usually one person. I mean, you will occasionally have couples that come in where in the history maybe they both had an affair, or one had an affair, and so now the wife had an affair, so now the husband, he's going to feel better if he has an affair, and now they're, I've worked with couples like that. But most of the time it's one person who is repeatedly had some relationships. So, they're trying to get their needs met outside of the marriage for whatever reason.
Right. Are those, it's hard to, the pain of that, and my thing is, when someone, goes outside the marriage or the relationship for an affair, it's not personal. It's not about you. You might make it about you, they might make it about you, but it's a personal choice. And there's something missing, and instead of, fixing it here, I think, to me, that's kind of an easy whatever, and I may be simplifying it, but people are hurt, people do take it personally. Can people easily get past that?
I don't think they can easily get past it, but whenever there's a situation where a couple is coming in and one person has cheated and the other one is, if you will, the victim of the affair, it is really important that the person who was cheated on does some individual counseling, because there's grief and there's a lot of anger, and a lot of times we can't be very successful in the marriage counseling because the one who was cheated on may not be communicating in healthy ways, has a lot of anger, will continue to throw it at the person, at the other partner. So it is important that they kind of get through some of that rawness and get through some of the anger and the grief before they do, ongoing marriage counseling, let's say. I think it's also important that both partners look at, is there a history here? Did my father cheat on my mother and I married somebody who's now cheating on me? And for the person who cheated, did I see that pattern of behavior in my upbringing? Because we're creatures of habit. We tend to continue behaviors and attitudes that we learned. So
Is that often the case?
it is often the case.
That's wild.
It is often the case. In my experience, in the years of counseling that I've done, where there was some pattern of cheating in the family of origin.
You know, it's interesting. Years ago, I listened to this teacher talking about how, you know, on the surface, we think we're one way. And we think we're looking for a healthy relationship. But he said it's almost like there are these invisible nets over our head. One person saying, I'm someone who needs to be cheated on in order to feel okay. And the other person carrying their net, I'm someone who needs to cheat in order to feel fulfilled. And they glom on here, not recognizing that that's what they're glomming onto, and thinking that they're choosing a healthy relationship. And you talked about it like a lock and key when we talked before.
Right.
So there is...
Of course, many people may know, there is a theory that we bring our old wounds with us. If we have certain things occur growing up, and I believe if we have not processed it, if we've not spoken about it, if we've maybe not felt some emotions that were buried inside as a result of this, in this case we're talking about somebody being cheated on. Well, let's say dad cheated on mom, and my mother and my father almost got divorced because dad cheated on mom. And I've got this happening to me when I'm 10 years old, and I'm devastated. But I'm not emotionally developed at the age of 10 years old, and mom didn't get me into counseling to process this, so I carry it inside of me. And I learn that this is normal behavior, and I learn that this is what I deserve. So I have this computer chip or this lock, and it says this is the way life is supposed to be, and this is the way life is in my life, you know. So on some kind of chemistry level, if you will, so it's certainly an unconscious level, we can be attracted to somebody who has a similar wound, or to somebody who is going to manifest this, cheat on me. So also, you know, what I mentioned earlier is that it's really important for me, if I'm the person being cheated on, and I did grow up with that, it's very important for me to go heal that. So I'm going to do a little individual counseling, and I'm going to heal not only what happened in my marriage, but I'm going to heal what happened in my growing up, in my childhood. And in so doing, I change my lock. Now, when I change my lock, that enables my partner a better chance of changing his key and going and healing his issues, or really looking at what he's done and have true remorse and change the behavior. Does it guarantee that he's going to? No. But it certainly gives the marriage and the partner a fighting chance. More of a fighting chance.
You know, it's so interesting. The relationships are so intriguing because I know someone who, you know, has been divorced twice and has been in some long-term relationships. And basically, you know, it's like, how do you know in advance what you're choosing? You could look at your history and the evidence, but like she said, at this point, she doesn't trust herself to pick the right guy because inevitably it was not the right guy. What do you tell someone like that?
It's funny that you bring that up because I have a girlfriend, and she recently said to me, I need to get in counseling and make some changes and heal so that I can attract a healthier man. So that's what I would say. I would say the more we grow, the more we heal, the more we become conscious of our own lives and our own behaviors and what we want changed, the more we open the door to bring in what we truly desire. Not the old tapes, what we truly desire in life. So the best thing to do, if you want to find the perfect partner, is to become the perfect person. Obviously, there's no such thing as a perfect person or a perfect partner, but you understand my point.
Yes. You get rid of the old undistinguished patterns that keep producing the same results, and how you do that is some internal work, your work on yourself. Yeah.
You work on yourself. You know, the word wounds is kind of strong, but you heal the old wounds if there's wounds there.
Yeah. Wow.
You change the messages that you've been telling yourself. So if, you know, I grew up and my father was always kind of insinuating that I was stupid, I need to heal that. I need to talk about that. I need to be angry that he treated me like that. I need to cry that he treated me like that. There's real pain behind that. I'm 11 years old and Dad keeps telling me I'm stupid. This is my dad who I love. Why would he do this to me? So I need to heal that. And then I can walk in knowing that I'm intelligent. And then my partner's going to respect my intelligence. You understand? As opposed to, you know,
choosing someone
unconsciously,
Yeah.
unconsciously I want to stress.
Yeah.
Choosing somebody.
Yeah. Who is, when you're in relationship with them, you feel stupid. It's a continuation of the old thing.
And that's about, and Harville Hendrix in Getting the Love You Want speaks on this, that is about trying to finish the unfinished business. It's about trying to get it right. We can look at it as a way of wanting to heal. And what he speaks about in marriages and in couples is you can actually help the other person heal by bringing to their consciousness, okay, when you tell me that I'm not doing it right, I feel stupid. And I just feel so small. And then you're communicating to your spouse, you know, my dad used to always make me feel stupid. By communicating that to your husband, and by him caring about you and trying to change it, he can actually help you to heal that old wound. But it's also important for you to do your own healing. And don't depend on your spouse to help you do it.
Right.
It's a great plus if he does or she does.
But it's really, You know, it's interesting, and then I want to talk about Harville Hendrix. This whole thing about, you know, on the one hand, it doesn't make sense logically. Like, if my dad treated me like I was stupid, then why would I look for someone who's going to treat me the same way? But it's what you're talking about. It's unfinished business. And it fits into getting the love you want. So if you didn't get it from your dad, you look to put yourself in a continuation of that so that you could finally get it. And so you'll choose someone who will play dad's role, but you're still not going to get it.
Right.
Am I articulating that right?
And it's also about, this is a belief that I have. I believe I'm stupid.
Right.
You know?
Sure.
So it's both things.
Yes. So I want to talk about Harville Hendrix and that book, Getting the Love You Want. And he created, I guess, something called imagotherapy. Yes?
Right.
Can we talk about imagotherapy? Like, kind of an overview and some of their steps, their dialoguing steps.
You know, I think the crux of what he's saying is that we do find partners where we have some similarities to our family of origin, and we are trying to heal our wounds. And he likes the idea that we can help each other to heal in relationship by becoming conscious of how those wounds are being repeated in the relationship, and by healthy communication, which is one thing that a lot of people lack. Most people think communication is telling the other person, you know, I asked you to take the garbage out, why didn't you take it out? Or you told me you were going to have dinner ready at 6 o'clock, it's 6:30.
Right. And therefore you don't care.
Right, well they think that that's communicating, but that's not communicating. Now the other thing that people do that isn't communicating is while the one partner is talking, other person's being defensive, feeling attacked, and not even hearing what's being said because they're thinking of what they're going to respond. How am I going to defend myself? How am I going to respond? How am I going to point the finger at you instead of me? We've got to stop pointing fingers in relationships. We've got to look at ourselves, not to say that we don't look at where we're being hurt or where we're being affected negatively, if I can use that word, but there's two people in the relationship. Both people are human. Both people have strengths. Both people bring positives to that relationship. Both people have weaknesses, and they bring those to the relationship. Both people have wounds, and they bring that to the relationship. So both people need to put themselves aside when somebody's speaking, when one partner's speaking. The other person needs to put themselves aside and just hear it. And that's what Harville Hendrix helps the couple to do. He starts with, you speak in short sentences, so the other person can repeat it back word for word. So, I'm a wife. I feel hurt that you said several times that we would go out on a Friday night, and then you came home too tired, and so we never went out.
And I, as the husband, would say, so you feel hurt because several times we planned to go out on a Friday night, and then we never did, and then you feel hurt.
Right. And so what we did is we kept it short enough, could have been a little shorter, but we kept it short enough that the other person in their emotions could remember it pretty much word for word.
So all you're doing is you're taking any defensiveness out of it. Your commitment really in that moment is just to repeat back.
And to listen and repeat back. And by keeping it short and by repeating back, you create an atmosphere where the other person is listening.
Got it.
Now, when they're listening, they can't be defensive.
Right.
Now the partner says, is there more? So you
Okay,
ask
so I
me,
say to you, is there more?
yes. I was so looking forward to going out dancing last Friday night and so disappointed that we didn't go.
So now I repeat back to you. So you were really looking forward to going dancing last Friday night and really disappointed when we didn't go.
Yes.
Is there more?
You know, it reminded me of how my dad used to always make promises and not keep them.
So it reminded you of your dad who made promises and didn't keep them. Any more? Anything more?
It was heartbreaking every time he did it.
So it was heartbreaking every time he did it.
Right. Now the next step, is there more? I say no. The next step is that the partner creates an empathetic statement. So it would be something like, I can understand how you would feel hurt, especially given the fact that you lived that growing up. So that might be something you would say to me.
Yeah, and what's really brilliant here is the person isn't being attacked, but what's more brilliant is they're not taking it personally, and they're not saying, I did something wrong. They're not even having to admit anything other than saying, I can really empathize that you would feel that way.
And it's because the one partner is communicating, not attacking, is communicating in I feel statements. If I'm communicating this to you, I'm speaking from my heart. I'm letting you in. I'm enabling you to love me. When I speak from my heart, instead of saying, you disappointed me, I say, I felt disappointed. You can hear that I was hurt. And you do care about me. I mean, you're married to me. So you feel empathetic. And you want to change for me.
Right.
Because I'm not telling you you did something wrong, like you said.
Yes, so it didn't start out with you did, and you disappointed me 3 times on a Friday night, which immediately will go into, oh, yikes, and then defensiveness. But I felt hurt when this happened.
Right.
So then I give you an empathetic statement which says something like, wow, I can really get how you would feel that way.
Right.
You know, three Fridays in a row, looking forward to going dancing.
Right.
And then it just takes you back to when your dad disappointed you.
Right, great.
Okay, so now I've empathized.
And now I feel heard. And I feel like you care about me because you heard me, you repeated it back, you gave me an empathetic statement. Now our relationship is spiraling in a positive way. Instead of the old way of communication, not hearing the person, being defensive, always attacking back. And this is a dance that couples do. So instead of doing that, I feel heard, I feel loved, I feel warm towards you. I want to meet your needs.
Right.
I want to, make this work even more.
Right, because now instead of a wall, there's a connection, there's an opening.
There's a connection. Heart-to-heart connection.
Yes. So then, so I've said all that, now you feel good. Is there another step?
After the empathetic statement,
Do you then make a request or?
Yes. So then the person who was speaking, in this case first, which is the woman, after that hopefully you have time for the husband to share what he needs to share. If not in that couple session, then in the next. But afterwards she will ask for a reasonable request that she thinks her husband can fulfill. So my request might be, do you think that in the month of October we can make plans to go out dancing on a Friday or a Saturday night, and in fact do that? Can you do that for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's really great. And so in Imago therapy, you teach couples this kind of dialogue.
Right.
And And it's something they can practice with the therapist and then take it home and practice at home.
Absolutely. And the more they learn to do it correctly, if you will, in the therapy session, the more they can do it at home. And we tell them to practice on minor issues at home, you know?
Right.
Something very minor that's not going to evoke emotion.
Yeah. You know, it's very interesting because I was in a training where they called it reflective listening. And it was part of this. But I think when we talk about communicating, like you said originally, you think communicating is just because something's coming out of your mouth.
Right.
That's not communicating.
Right.
It's communicating something. But and they gave an example of a child, like running in and saying, Mommy, Mommy, you know, I hate Johnny. He grabbed my toy and took it away and he hit me. And as parents, we immediately get mobilized and we think we have to fix something.
Right.
Whereas if we just do reflective listening, like, oh, so Johnny took your toy away and you hate him and you feel really angry, anything else, you know, then as the dialogue goes along, it just kind of fizzles away.
It dissipates.
Yeah.
And I was going to bring that up, that this is great for parents to do with their children. They don't need to get their way. Let's say they're saying, but Mom, I really want to go out.
Yeah.
I heard you say you really want to go out, honey. And you leave it at that. The important thing is that people need to feel heard. So yes, great that you brought up the children and the parents.
Yeah. I once read this quote, and it was, being heard is so close to being loved that it's almost imperceptible difference. And really, you know, people want to be heard, or another way of saying people want to get gotten, and it's not so much that you're agreeing with them. You don't even have to agree with them.
Right.
You just have to get them.
Right.
And it seems so simple, and we seem to find it so difficult.
Right, we're not taught this in school.
Yeah.
I wish we were.
Yeah.
I wish we
So,
were.
the other thing I wanted to ask you, and I'm so happy we did that because people can actually mimic that, you know? One of the things we talked about before the show, you talked about, I said, you know, so what's the first thing you might do with a couple? And you said, ask them what had them first fall in love.
Right.
And like you described it, when they come in, the marriage is spiraling down,
Right.
and you look to change it to spiraling up.
Right.
So what typically comes out of that? So, you know, they actually reflect, and do they start to remember? Or?
Oh, sure. So in the first couple session, I always do a few things. One is, I don't want them necessarily coming in and just speaking about the negative. I want to find out what made them fall in love with each other. What were the characteristics that you loved about that person? Now, they can do it verbally right then and there. They can write it on paper and share it. My point is I want to bring them back to rekindling the positives. The other thing I want to do is make sure that they get back to what it was like in the beginning. In the beginning, they dated. In the beginning, they did special things for each other. In the beginning, they remembered to say, I love you. They remembered to hold hands. They didn't even have to remember. It came natural. So, you know, in the course of being married, or the course of being in a relationship, or raising children, the stresses of work, the stresses of everyday life, we forget to nurture the relationship. And I'm stepping a little bit outside this, but you know, sometimes we're afraid of that intimacy, and we walk away from it a little bit. We need to bring it back. That's important. Now you can date, you can remember to put the chocolate kisses under the pillow, you can remember to write I love you and lipstick on the mirror, and the person feels special. You're spiraling up. You don't want to just heal the issues in the relationship without also feeding the wonderful things in the relationship, without fostering the good in the relationship. You need to work on them both.
Yeah.
If you're just working on the problems, you're only focusing on the problems. You have to nurture the relationship. I like to say it's like baby grass. If you step on the grass, if all you're doing is stepping on the seeds and the baby grass, it's going to die. There's a keep off the grass sign. There's a fence. You water it. You water it with the positives. The more you water it, the stronger it will grow. Then you can step on it and it's not going to die. That's what you want to happen to your relationship.
Yeah. You said something interesting, and you said we're not really going to touch on this now, but I want to touch on it, is the fear of intimacy that comes in. And I see that as a commonality, and I like, where does that happen? You know, in the beginning, it's all like, take me, want me, praise me, love me, I love you, you know, all of that, it's all open. What happens that starts shutting that down?
You know, John Bradshaw from old, he was one of the first pioneers of you know, good therapy, I think. But, my opinion. But he speaks about, oh, I lost my train of thought. The infant bonding. The infatuation stage is similar to infant bonding. So, in the beginning, we're a little bit fantasizing and, you know, kind of in that infant bonding stage that we were with mom. But as we get to know each other and we really see each other and we're really involved in the everyday stresses of life, some of that is natural and healthy to dissipate. But the closer we get to a person and the more we allow the intimacy to grow, the more it taps into our old wounds, if you will. So it sounds a little corny, but I believe love heals. So if I keep letting you love me and I keep staying close to you, then it's going to bring up some stuff that I'm afraid to face. So, you know, I'm not sure if he speaks about this, but I know that the way I describe it is, you know, healthy intimacy is like this. You know, the infant bonding may be like this. This isn't healthy. We need to be individuals in a relationship. And sometimes we're like this and sometimes we're like this. So this is what healthy might look like. But what happens is as the relationship progresses, we get more nervous about the intimacy and the healing. We start to go like this.
So it's our level of vulnerability
good way to say it, yes.
Gets raised and activated. And so the more intimate we are, the more in danger we are.
That's my belief.
Yeah.
Part of it.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So if I put my wall up from you treating me well, let's say, it's going to keep me safe. Example that I give. You ever go through a really, really hard time and you don't have anybody to talk to, but you're alone, but you think of somebody that loves you. And all of a sudden you start to cry. You get a bit of healing. Because you thought about somebody who loved you and you knew that that person, or you speak to somebody who you know loves you, who will put their arm around you and you can let some pain out. We're only as sick as those emotions we hold inside of us and those wounds we hold inside of us.
And we have about a minute left, but you know, if you look at it on a body, mind, spirit level, it's where emotions get jammed, where energy gets jammed, where spirit gets jammed or glommed on. So I think it's really vital, that whole thing of being willing to heal whatever hasn't been healed. We have 1 minute left. What would you like to say about couples, love, whatever?
I was going to just, Eckhart Tolle speaks about the pain body. So he says, you know, we need to heal the pain body. But in terms of relationship counseling, and couples and making it work, you really need to learn to speak from the heart. You really need to foster the positives in the relationship, rekindle the romance, go on dates, fun dates. Don't just go to dinner all the time. You know, find something that you really both are going to enjoy. Go to an amusement park or go out dancing or go to the theater. So keep the romance alive, rekindle the relationship, speak in healthy I feel statements. You know, I do 100% believe that if you have a good therapist, that you can, and if both people are willing to work at the relationship and, you know, do some homework, if you will, then you can heal your relationship. But both people need to.
We have to end.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was a pleasure having this conversation.
Thank you so much.
My name is Natasha Sherman. Thank you for joining us.